California. All right. Over in California, did you guys know that they are basically legislating themselves to death? And I couldn't believe it when I seen this, that they are actually trying to outlaw self-checkouts in California. They're trying to outlaw self-checkouts in California. Shout out to my dog, Pan-Africanism Strikes Back. They're trying to outlaw self-checkouts in California. I couldn't believe it. Let's get to it, because y'all already know that they was trying to eliminate Clear, right? Because people was mad that other people was getting ahead of them.
This morning, California lawmakers considering a new bill forcing retailers to limit self-checkout lanes in an effort to curb theft and protect jobs.
When worker safety is at risk and people lose their jobs, we in the state legislature must act, and we must act now.
According to the bill, grocery and retail stores would be required to provide at least one cashier-run station. Self-checkouts would be limited to 10 items or less, and a human worker would be required to monitor no more than 2 lanes each.
You know what this is really about, right? They gon' disguise it and say that it's actually here to eliminate theft, but that's a lie. It's the biggest lie ever. What California is basically doing is going down this path in which they're creating artificial inflation by requiring for all of these places that do business to raise the minimum wage and stuff like that. But in reality, what they really doing is they're trying to control an economy and force these companies to not innovate themselves out of a job. So, for example, you got McDonald's, you got a lot of these places, or you got like a Walmart, right? And so eventually what they're going to do is they're going to raise the minimum wage, because it just started with fast food workers. The minimum wage, it is unconstitutional, Eric Daniels, and I'm going to explain why. It started with fast food workers, in that they said, okay, well, if you have this many locations worldwide or nationwide, then you're going to be required to do at least $20 minimum wage fast food workers, right? So then what the retailers do is they say, okay, well, if this is what you're going to do, then what we'll do is we'll minimize the amount of people that we have working for us, and we'll start to implement technology to prevent you guys from eating into our profits. And what we're going to do is we're going to roll that out nationwide, so that now that Chicago is trying to do the same thing as LA and California, we're not going to lose profits, even though while we have to temporarily pass this cost over to the consumers. So now they're going to disguise it, and they say, hey, listen, in order to get you to vote on it, or in order to get you to agree with it, they're going to say, hey, listen, we're trying to limit theft. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce legislation to require a retailer to have at least one self-checkout, and the only time that you can go to the self-checkout is if you have 10 items or less. A human worker is required to monitor, and it's going to be no more than 2 lanes for each self-checkout. So they're trying to legislate capitalism and preventing companies from innovating themselves beyond whatever it is that's happening as far as how y'all legislating these minimum wage, right? And then we know technology and AI and all of this stuff is making it easier for you to be able to get rid of all of these workers, because now you can just go up to a kiosk, or you can order online, or you can go to Amazon or whatever. And so they're trying to mitigate the fallout that comes from the fact that this minimum wage law that they egregiously raised up is going to impact workers, and it's going to impact industries across the board. You cannot force a business or tell a business how to run their business. That is unconstitutional. Now, you can have requirements of whether or not you want them to, meet certain permits, or if they open up this business, if they, you know what I'm saying, if they have certain things that you have to meet as far as expectations. If you got a restaurant, then you got to have a hood, and, it's got to meet EPA inspection, or you got to have insurance if you're over in this area, or if you're doing this business or whatever, right? If you sell so many cars, then you got to be required to get a dealer's license. Okay, those are pieces of legislation that prevent people from skirting taxes or whatever. I understand that part. But you can't tell nobody how to run their business. Hey, if you're a retailer, you got to have at least 2 subjects. What kind of junk is that? How can you tell somebody how to compete in a truly capitalistic society, right? In which capitalism isn't perfect, but it's the best option that we have until somebody actually introduces something better, because socialism certainly ain't it. Capitalism has allowed for more people to pull themselves out of poverty, which is one of the reasons why people are trying to run to the United States of America. If you're going to do it, you got to remove the barriers to entry. One of the problems with capitalism is too big of a government. When you have so much red tape, which is one of the things that they're complaining about over there in Dalton, Illinois, when you can't even open up your business, when you got so much red tape or so many barriers to entry, you prevent people from being able to do it successfully. We need smaller government, not bigger government, smaller government, and less government regulation in order to, get these businesses off the ground, because the true backbone of America is small business. It's innovation. It's the fact that you can come up with an idea and you remove the barriers to entry for people to be able to compete. And your legislators and your politicians that have never ran a business a day in their life, they don't understand this. When you have too much government, too many rules, you stifle innovation and you prevent businesses from being able to thrive.
Stores using AI at checkout would need a full assessment before deploying that technology. Lawmakers and retailers say curbing theft is a priority, with one recent survey estimating more than 20 million Americans have stolen from a self-checkout kiosk and more than 8 million planning to do it again. 69% of consumers.
Somebody said, do capitalism right. Check this out. Do capitalism right. Can't have retail outlets having 20 plus self-checkout stations and only 4 work. No, because you don't know the technology that goes into and the software engineering and the mechanics and everything that goes into deploying those self-checkouts. Here's what real self-capitalism looks like. If people don't like it, then they won't go to that store. It's not that you can legislate or you can tell them how they're supposed to run their business. That's the actual opposite of what capitalism is if they not doing it as good as they supposed to, but you got a better competing product or you got a better idea in which you can take market share from them, then you do that. But if it wasn't working and they gonna go out of business, that's what true capitalism is. Doing capitalism right does not mean that you can require them to do anything. It means that you remove the barriers to entry for them to be able to compete against other businesses that also have the same rules as you. That's what doing real capitalism is. You can't tell somebody that they can't innovate, or if they out-innovate themselves, then what happens is they didn't do it right, and so the user experience is bad and people won't go to that business. And if people don't like self-checkout, then they won't go to it. Stop it, man.
Consumers also say it's easier to steal from a self-checkout kiosk than a cashier. This comes as major retailers have already been rethinking how to use self-checkout in stores. Most recently, Target is limiting self-checkout to 10 items or less.
The line goes quicker, but also I feel like it's not very convenient for some people that are buying a lot of stuff.
While other major retailers like Walmart and Costco experimenting with limiting self-checkout, and Dollar General removing self-checkout altogether from hundreds of its stores.
The question is whether forcing people to a certain kind of checkout, whether that resolves the issue, and I don't think it's going to be a global solution.
Retail theft aside, many shoppers are taking notice of the changes.
Can we just talk about the self-checkout epidemic in the United States?
We are officially entering the downfall of self-checkouts.
As for inflation-weary shoppers in California, experts also say buyer beware over a potential downside to the bill.
I'm very worried that this will raise the cost for the businesses, which will then have to really try to resolve that issue either through raising prices or exiting the market. And consumers, we know, are already fed up with high prices.
There are 20 million thieves among us. 20 million people are stolen from the self.
Let me get the reaction from the people of what this is like in California.
Reporters pushing for a bill that would change regulations that could result in stores removing their self-checkout service. Some stores in California are already changing their policies because of rampant theft. ABC 7 News reporter Gloria Rodriguez joins us live here with the story. Gloria?
Good morning, Kristen. Advocates say this is a common sense law, but opponents say it'll hurt businesses.
When we have more workers in stores, theft is decreased.
This morning, advocates had a virtual news conference.
That's not true either. Because a lot of times the very people that be stealing in the stores is the ones that work there. The biggest thieves are not the people that's just walking in and taking stuff. The fact that, look, real legislation, the problem is not the fact that you need more cashiers. It's not. Because all you're going to do is you're going to have more lawsuits. Because if somebody touch you on the way out in California, they're going to be like, oh no, you touched me, I hurt myself, I'm suing. That's not what innovation is, okay? The problem with California has nothing to do with whether or not they got self-checkouts or whether or not they got more cashiers. It has something to do with the fact that they've enabled criminals to be more successful because they're too soft on crime and there is no repercussions as a result of stealing. So a lot of times people don't care whether you got a worker in there or you got self-checkout. They rolling through and they gonna walk right out the door anyway. They're not even stopping. They're not trying to conceal it. People in California is not trying to conceal their theft. That's not the thing that's gonna prevent somebody from stealing. The problem in California is that they're soft on crime. They're not even trying to go through they don't go through self-checkout no more and try to stealthily do it. They just walk out the door. That's not the thing that's going to prevent theft. It's the fact that you have greater consequences as a result of people stealing in the first place. That's why California is failing, is because they've legislated so much help for the criminals and not actually helping the small businesses and the residents. The very people that's inside of the businesses are some of the biggest thieves. They steal the most. The people that work there are the people that steal the most. It's not about having more workers. It's about making sure that you change the way in which people do things from a cultural perspective.
A new bill that would regulate self-checkouts. Supporters say it cut down on thefts in California stores and boost employment.
It's so stupid.
We must protect jobs.
Y'all got to start thinking too, man. Don't just take the talking points of these stupid news stations. Y'all got to start thinking, bro.
And ensure worker safety.
Democratic Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas introduced the bill.
1446 is essential to making sure that we are addressing all of the complexity of this issue of retail theft, and most importantly, putting workers and consumers first.
If passed, grocery and pharmacy retailers would need a dedicated employee for every 2 self-checkout stations. If stores fail to meet the requirements, they must close self-checkouts.
Crazy.
Leticia Acosta says she manages the self-checkout area at the Lucky Supermarket in Pinole and that she got attacked when she reported theft.
Because of this incident, I am terrified to report any incidents of theft. This bill will ensure that grocery stores are properly staffed.
But organizations, including the California Retailers Association, have come out against the proposed legislation.
Some places are choosing to close down self-checkout, and I think that stores should have the ability to make that decision. I don't know that the state needs to mandate that.
Correct. 100% right.
And the California Retailers Association adds that they need to hold criminals accountable and go after repeat offenders to deter retail theft in the first place. The California Chamber of Commerce also is coming out against the bill, saying it would put unnecessary restrictions on businesses and would not result in less theft.
And I agree. She just said it. She literally just said it. You need to stop focusing on controlling businesses and start focusing on getting after the criminals. This is so dumb. California, y'all so dumb, bro. So stupid. And y'all keep voting these people in. Maybe I won't even do my thing over in California, bro.